Hey everybody, how are you? I hope you all had a wonderful day today. It is 7:30. I have been laid up with my back these past 3 days and just have not been doing very much. I've been on muscle relaxers, which make me sleepy. It's a little late, but it's still October 26th. So I want to say happy birthday to Keith Urban. This is a shirt that I had got off of eBay years ago, and it's a really nice shirt. It has images of prints of Keith over the years. That was him, gosh, many, many years ago with the mullet. And you see Nicole and Keith right there. So this is a beautiful shirt that I got off of eBay. And I adore this shirt. So, anyway, I discovered Keith Urban in March of 2004. Um, my husband and I had been through a very traumatic experience, and we both were extremely depressed, just really, really in a bad headspace. And me, particularly, long story short, I was never able to have children. Uh, we were offered the opportunity to raise a child, and unfortunately, that didn't happen. We had her for 10 months, and then she was gone. So, um, as you can imagine, I was a wreck. Um, it to say the least. From 2000 to 2004, I was a very depressed, unhappy person, and I was really, really in a bad way. But on March, around March, mid March 2004, I had turned the TV on to Country Music Television Network, which is CMT, and I saw an entertainer who just blew me away. I don't know what it was. There was just something in Keith that actually sparked me and brought me back to life. Literally, literally. His songs were fun. Who wouldn't want to be me? Somebody like you. Of course, he was cute as a button, very good looking young man. And then as he was going up the stairs to the stage, I heard he said, "I love you, Mom." And that really touched my heart. And I thought, this is really an amazing entertainer. And from that day forward, I have loved Keith. I am grateful to him for bringing me out of my depression, major, major depression, years of therapy. And he was just, the thing I needed to get on with my life. Yeah, it's been a long ride, a very fun ride for me since 2004. Keith has actually been at it in the country music genre for over 23 years now. His very first album came out in 1999, and in 2000 he started touring. And I did some research. There is a website online that actually lists artists' shows from the beginning of their career till now. And after I added it all up to date, 1,116 shows that he has done starting in 2000. Now, that is amazing. He started out touring with Brooks and Dunn and Kenny Chesney, and then around, let's see, I didn't write that down, but he was a co-entertainer for a number of years, and then he started his own tours himself. I think right around 2003, 2004. The very first concert I went to was March 2005 in the Ryman. I had just discovered him the year before, and I found out he was coming to the Ryman, and I went to see him, and it was an amazing show. He very early in his career. He did songs from his album, songs from his early days. He was in a band called The Ranch, which was a three-piece band, and they were around for a little bit. Their album was fantastic, but it didn't really go anywhere. So Keith decided to go out on his own. So that was a fantastic show. Leanne Rhymes came out as a guest, very unexpected, but she was there at the show. So she came out and she sang a song with him. His old friend Jerry Flowers from the ranch came out and did a song with him. And from that day forward, it has just been absolutely amazing. Jerry Flowers eventually joined Keith's band, and they've been together now for a long, long time. And so June 8th, 2005 was his first fan club party, or at least my first fan club party. Never to have one again, which was sad, but doesn't matter. I saw a lot of concerts. I have had to date, I have seen 11 concerts of Keith. And he was born on October 26th, 1967, and he looks fantastic. I saw him in 2005, 2007, 2009, 2011, July 2013, August 2014, November 2016, September 2018, July 2018, and then July 23, 2022, which was very recently. One thing that I've noticed with my research is that most of the people that he toured with aren't very active anymore, but Keith is still going. Kenny Chesney, I'm not sure what Kenny Chesney is up to these days. I haven't heard much about him. He's had some singles over the past couple of years. Maybe he is touring. I just haven't, kept my radar on him because I'm not a huge Kenny Chesney fan, so I don't follow him. But like when he first started out, on his own tour, he had Carolyn Dawn Johnson with him, and she was a fantastic singer back in the early 2000s. I believe she was a Canadian singer. Not sure what's going on with her these days, but it's just a note to reference that most of the artists that he toured with just aren't around that much anymore, and but he's still going strong, and that's amazing. He's had Kelsey Ballerini, who is very popular. I love her. She's great. I saw him twice in 2018, and I was so thrilled because I love Kelsey Ballerini. She's got a great voice, great stage presence, and just amazing. So Keith has been very open about his substance abuse struggles. Uh, when he first came to Nashville and was trying to get into the business, he heavily got into the cocaine and the alcohol. And his father was an alcoholic, and he didn't realize that he was probably made out of the same wires. That's what he said in an interview. And then once he quit, he would tell people that he was allergic to alcohol. And I found this quote and I thought it was really interesting. He said, "What happens when you drink?" He said, "I break out in cuffs." Yeah. So he's got a great sense of humor, and he married Nicole Kidman on June 25th, 2006. And at that time, he was still struggling kind of with the alcohol problem. And so, right around September of October of that year, Nicole and friends did an intervention with Keith because they could see, it was a problem and they wanted him to get help. So he did. He went to the Betty Ford Center for rehab, and he initially was only going to do 30 days, but then he realized that he needed more time. I want to say he was in there for, I believe, 90 days. I remember it was extended twice, so that, he really felt the need to stay and go through all of the rehab to get over his addiction. and he has been sober since then. So, and he is very thankful to Nicole for doing that. He actually wrote a song for her on his one of his albums called "Thank You," and they've had an amazing marriage from what I can see. They're still married, still going strong, no matter what people have said about them. They're still going strong. Sunny Rose is their first child. Nicole became pregnant. I think she was 41 when she had Sunday Rose Kidman Urban on July 7th, 2008. And it was a very joyous time for all of us. All of us who loved Keith were so happy that he finally found somebody who he loved and loved him. And we were just so happy. And I was thrilled personally. He had kind of a rough life, being addicted. And marrying Nicole really seemed to make him so happy. And he's a very happy man. All you have to do is see him in concert, and you will know that. So they wanted another child, but unfortunately, Nicole was not having success with getting pregnant, so they decided to go via surrogacy. And Faith Margaret Kidman Urban was born on July 7th, 2008. I can't believe it's been 14 years since Sunny was born. Uh, she's 14 this year, and Faith will be 11 on December 28th. So he has a wonderful life. He and Nicole seem to love each other so much. Anytime you see pictures of them, they look very loving towards one another. Um, they both have very active careers. As you know, Nicole is a top-notch actress, and Keith is a entertainer. And so keeping their relationship going and keeping their family dynamic together is very important. So Keith, he plans out his tour with a couple of nights in between dates so that he is able to fly home and be with his family. Back in the day when he didn't have a family, it would be date after date after date, with hardly no breaks in between. But now that he's married and he's got children, he makes a point of doing maybe 2 nights in a row or 3 nights in a row, but then he's off for 3 or 4 days to go home and be with his family. And it works. Sometimes he will fly out to a location where Nicole is filming for a few days to see her. And it was funny. I think early in their marriage, I remember a story where she was filming that movie Australia, and Keith went down to be with her, and the security guard wouldn't let him in. But he had to tell him, I'm Keith Urban, I'm her husband. That was an interesting story, back then, when they first got married. But that was yeah, a fun little tidbit to tell you about. So, yeah, in the early days, he toured with Kenny Chesney, Brooks and Dunn, Leanne Rhymes, and he's just still going strong. And so I wrote down all the dates that I saw him, which is kind of fun to go back. So November 30th, 2007, I saw him in Nashville. Uh, March 2005 was the Ryman. 2009 was in Nashville with Sugarland. I was very disappointed in Sugarland. They had absolutely no stage presence, didn't even include the audience. They stood up there and they sang and they acted like they were in their own little world. I was very disappointed in Sugarland. They did not even speak to the audience. August 12th, 2011, I saw him in Knoxville when we lived in East Tennessee. July 2013, I saw him that was in North Carolina. And then on August 23rd, 2014 was a momentous day. I was in the fan club at the time, and One of the perks of the fan club was to enter a lottery for backstage passes. So what happened was anybody who was a fan club member could apply for the meet and greet, and it was just chosen at random, and I happened to win that meet and greet for August 23rd, 2014. And I was so excited and was all happy, and I was going to tell him how he changed my life and everything. The weather that day was absolutely hot, and I mean hot. Alabama in the summertime. Oh, talk about humidity. It was so hot. And I had stood in line for maybe an hour, to get into the show, and I was already overheated. So when we went inside and we met up with the person who was going to take us to the backstage, they all went running off. I could not keep up with them because number one, I do have bad legs and a bad back from an accident. So I tried to keep up with them, but I couldn't. And by the time I got down to where the entrance was to the back area, I was sweating profusely. I had a horrible headache. I really felt like I was going to pass out. I mean, that's how bad it was. And unfortunately, I guess fortunately, but not unfortunately, I was the first person in line, along with another lady right next to me. And so we were the first ones to go up the steps to see Keith and take a picture. And so I was so out of it, honey. So disappointed. I was so out of it. And I swear to God, I firmly believe that I blacked out for a moment because I remember going upstairs. I remember Keith coming over to me to hug me. But then everything just kind of went blank. And the next thing I knew, Keith was over in the photo booth, telling me to come on over. And I was so out of it. And so I went over there and I couldn't get in a word. I wanted to. We did the picture real quick. He put his arm around me. I put my arm around him, and he's tall. My head was like maybe maybe at his armpit or a little bit below. And he really is a lot taller than I am. Of course, I'm only 5 feet. So all I could say was, "You're awesome." And he said, "You're awesome too." And I so much wanted to talk to him real quickly afterwards. But the lady with me started talking to him, and I was just whisked away. So yeah, I was grateful for the opportunity, but very, very disappointed that I was in such bad shape that I couldn't really enjoy the moment, you know. But, you've all seen the picture. Of course, it's going to be the thumbnail on this video. And at least I can say I did meet Keith. I got to stand next to him. And I just hope I have another opportunity in the future. This tour, of course, he's not doing meet and greets, which is to be expected. The pandemic is it may not be as bad as it was, but it still is. People are still getting sick. So I think that was a very smart idea to not have meet and greets this year. So, yeah, it's just been fantastic for me. I've had an amazing time collecting all of his albums and going to his shows. And as you all know, that last show that I went to on July 23rd this year was quite an eventful time for me. Thankfully, after looking at his set list, this one website that I went to that listed all of his shows, that's how I was able to get this list of all the shows that I went to. I looked at the set list and I was very, very lucky on July 23rd that I actually heard all of my favorite songs from Keith before succumbing to a fainting spell and falling flat on my face on the concrete. Oh, what an experience. It was terrible. Um, we still don't know. I mean, I did not feel overheated at all on July 23rd. I felt great. Uh, There was a breeze that night. I was enjoying the concert. I did get out of my seat simply because I could not see him. There were so many people standing up, which is normal. But I think that just not having seen him for 4 years, it just really pissed me off more than usual. And so, yeah, I'm used to that. But, at that time, it had been 4 years, okay? And it's like, everybody deserved to see Keith. So I got out of my seat and I went over to the side. There were quite a few people over to the side. This was an outdoor venue in New Hampshire. Love that place, Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion. And I was doing great. I was recording him. And then all of a sudden, my legs started hurting. I do have arthritis in both my knees. So I had to quickly get out of there. I didn't go back to my seat because it was a little bit further back. So I just went down some stairs out into the outdoor area, and I was sitting on a stone wall, and all of a sudden the world just started spinning. And the next thing I knew, I was waking up on the ground face down and concrete, face down on concrete. I looked like I had been beat up, and I was beat up by the concrete. It was really awful. So I missed the rest of the show, and I had to go to the first aid, and then they sent me to the hospital because they thought I needed stitches. I didn't need stitches; they just glued it up, and I doubt you can see it here, but I do have a bit of a scar right here, kind of like a Y-shaped scar right there. That was really bad. And then I have a couple of bumps all over my head that are still there, believe it or not. Not quite as bad as they were, but you can kind of tell where they were. But anyway, it was a bad experience, and but you know, things happen, and I was supposed to go to Mohegan Sun a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and my car did not cooperate, so I was not able to go when I sold that ticket. So, yeah, it's been a very stressful year for me. But, I'm grateful that I did see him in July. I'm grateful that I saw half of the show. And yeah, not everybody's that lucky, especially these times when the pandemic has really caused a lot of problems, and our government has caused a lot of problems with our economy. So, anyhow, I just want to say happy birthday, Keith. I'm so glad that you made it through the hard times and that you and Nicole are happy with Sunny and Faith. And I love you so much. And I love everybody here on my channel. Everybody have a wonderful day tomorrow. And I will see you next time. And when I'm smiling, it's because I'm talking about Keith. Everybody take care. I love you. Bye.